The Tea Party Express that's turned elections upside down in dozens of states is mostly bypassing North Carolina, but that doesn't mean the Tea Party movement isn't having an impact here.
The Tea Party very early on established 40 House races and a handful of Senate races around the country that they thought were most important, and North Carolina's races did not make their list. But some of their candidates are very much in line with the Tea Party philosophy.
Candidates like Renee Elmers and Ilario Pantano, neither of whom has ever run for office. Complete with endorsements from Sarah Palin, Elmers and Pantano are giving long-serving Democratic congressmen the challenges of their political lives.
We have some real excitement here. There is a real energy because our conservative message is going to be heard.
Democrats Heath Shuler, Larry Kissel, Mike McIntyre, and Bob Etheridge are all in close contests with Republican challengers. Shuler and Kissel represent districts 11 and 8, both of which have changed hands between the parties over the past few years.
When people look at North Carolina, they look at House District 8 and House District 11 as the actual swing districts. So, you know, McIntyre's district, not normally considered to be a problem. Bob Etheridge's district, usually not a problem. But this year, things are different.
Polling from Real Clear Politics in 538 shows Elmers with a slight lead over Etheridge and McIntyre and Pantano neck and neck. The 7th district seat that McIntyre and Pantano are vying for covers the southeastern part of the state. Counties like New Hanover and Brunswick, which were among the leaders in early voting statewide.
I just think people are so upset that everybody feels like they're, I think that's why we have the crowds.
For Mike McIntyre, a 7-term moderate Blue Dog Democrat who voted against the bank bailout and health care reform, a close contest is a bit of a surprise.
He's had several elections with no opponent or a libertarian opponent. Just look at the demographics of the district, think, a conservative Democrat who votes against big government programs, perfect. But in this case, perfect doesn't necessarily, meet this anti-incumbency fervor that's taken over.
In the 7th district, the atmosphere between McIntyre and Pantano has grown increasingly nasty.
He's running several ads trying to say he will protect Social Security.
The two have held dueling news conferences.
Congressman Mike McIntyre has enabled the Nancy Pelosi agenda
and assailed each other over Social Security and illegal immigration, among many other things.
Congressman McIntyre has been in Washington for 14 years. You stop being part of the solution, you start becoming part of the problem.
Him just moving here 4 years ago comes in here and thinks he can suddenly tell us what to do and says, well, all issues are just national.
There are, of course, races for federal and local offices on this ballot, and as the political parties and the candidates themselves make their message points in advance of this election, that issue of a local perspective versus a national one keeps coming up again and again. In many of his campaign stops, McIntyre's emphasizing his connections with the communities in the 7th district.
I've grown up here, have lived here, my family's here, our commitment is here. You got to first know the local people and the local issues if you're then going to go argue for them and for the people on the national level.
Pantano acknowledges that he's relatively new to the area, but says his more conservative stances on the issues put him more in line with the voters of the district.
The Democrats have a majority registration in this district, but the fact that we would be doing well enough in the polls that Nancy Pelosi would have to spend $500,000 here, that means that our message clearly is attracting Democrats, independents, and of course Republicans, as long as they're conservative.
Indeed, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's name is front and center in many Republican campaign offices and in the minds of many voters.
I consider Mike to be a friend.
In years past, Doug Murray has voted for McIntyre, but is going with Pantano this time. Not so much to punish the local congressman, but to punish his party on a national basis.
Even though Mike may well have looked after his constituency, we definitely need Republicans in the Congress and in the Senate to turn around what we feel is a rampant ride towards socialism.
Mike has integrity, and he's researched all the issues, and he votes the way he thinks it's best.
Margaret Herring's had her differences with McIntyre and the Democrats, but she's sticking by him.
He's done so much for the area, I couldn't not vote for him.
North Carolina's congressional races are also close this year because money from outside groups has leveled the fundraising playing field.
When the candidates can raise $80,000, $90,000 and get their message out through mailers and a few ads, and an outside group that may have no connection with North Carolina can come in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in that district to articulate a single message, it just really gives the power to these outside groups and takes away power from the candidates.